Have you ever regretted something so deeply it haunted you in your dreams? Because I have. I birthed characters so boring, so cringe-inducing, that I had to take breaks while recording this video. No, why? But it's time to finally get rid of the nightmares. It's time for a redesign. And not only that, I gave them a complete story overhaul with new lore and new mysteries strewn about. And the first mystery we need to solve is, how did this happen? Oh god, no, I can't. Why? Mashi? Her name is Mashi. What is she mashing? Is she a Smash player or what? This poor girl clearly suffered some kind of horrific accident that caused her hip dysplasia. If you would like to donate to the cause, please mash that like button. At this point, I was getting a bit stressed out. How do you even redesign a character like this? God, what do I even do with you? But then, I realized we don't need full designs yet, but proof of concept. Ideas caught in a bottle. So, what is the idea behind Mashi? What is her story? Let's figure it out.
Round 1, fight!
In the 1987 movie, The Fifth Element, there is this female character named Lilu. Lilu is fun, naive, and whimsical like a child, yet at the same time, she is incredibly sexualized. Because of this, she is the poster child of the born sexy yesterday trope, a term coined by pop culture detective. I thought of Lilu the moment I saw Mashi's old character sheet, because that Mashi was very much the same. She was both a child and a woman, which in a meta way makes sense. I created her when I myself was 17, so in a very unfortunate way, she represents the awkwardness of being a teen. But she couldn't stay that way. After all, I am no longer a teenager. I have grown and I needed to show it. I had to find her story. And to do so, I needed to ask questions. I think she'd look cool with some piercings? No, different kinds of questions. Is Mashi just a self-insert Mary Sue assassin OC? And for the love of God, who the hell is Kiki? Wait, Kiki. I remember who Kiki was, oh my god. When I remembered who Kiki was, I realized that this cringy Mary Sue was actually a gateway to great lore. In the beginning, there was nothingness. No thought, no emotion, no sensation. Until suddenly, as if somebody flicked a light switch, Mashi became. Like a supernova exploding, consciousness was poured into her. With great effort, she got her first breath and felt fear for the first time as a giant axe swung at her head. The pain was unbearable and she screamed. The first sound she ever made. Her blood gushed, and the first and last thing she heard were cheers from the crowd. And then she woke up. In a small white box, she moved her hands. The feeling of blood pumping through her veins was foreign. She tried to figure out how to move her legs, stumbled forward, and suddenly found herself in a dimly lit room surrounded by display boxes. Inside these displays were people, animals, and alien-like creatures, all dressed differently, each with some kind of weapon by their side, and all completely unmoving. She heard footsteps behind her. She turned around, but it was too dark to see who or what it was. The shadowy figure stopped, and squinting, Mashi noticed two dark red eyes looking at her. Huh, so they woke you up. Mashi realized she knew that voice, and suddenly, she remembered. Ki. The full lore might have to wait until I find my old sketchbooks where Kiki is hiding. Until then, subscribe, and let's answer those questions from before without spoiling too much of what I have planned for Kiki and Mashi's lore. So, is Mashi just a self-insert Mary Sue assassin OC? Well, no. At least not anymore. What Mashi is exactly, I won't tell you just yet, but trust me, she is a designed killer. She used a variety of weapons, and the most common combo was the pink gun and the flail. Back in her days in the arena, she had many fans who found the mix of brutal fights and her childlike charm quite appealing. Her pink clothes, more often than not, would be soiled by the blood of her opponents, but all she could do then is stare blankly with wide, empty eyes. During that time, she was an empty husk, an overpowered character with a loyal fanbase. However, over a decade ago, something happened, and she disappeared from the arena to the despair of her fans. They haven't seen her since then, but you have. This is the new Mashi, a decade after Kiki found her. She has changed, even if the change isn't immediately obvious. She ditched her old pastel pink and white clothes for a darker aesthetic, more reminiscent of Yami Kawaii. Which, by the way, I have a series on this channel where I analyze internet aesthetics. Let me know if you would like to see a video on Yami Kawaii. The colors got darker, yet the pink stayed, because the pink clothes still serve the same purpose they did back in the arena. They're there to deceive you. Pink is associated with femininity, but more specifically girlhood. And sometimes girlhood is pastel pinks and white eyes, and sometimes it's blood. Except that's not the only contrast Mashi embodies. She no longer has a thin choker on her neck. Now in its place there's a thick, heavy leather collar, as if to show that her innocence is gone. And yet, she kept the bunny hat. I think she wanted to look like a captured rabbit, something innocent in shackles. There is even more mystery to uncover about her. Who is she truly? Why did she disappear? What is her connection to Kiki? Maybe in the next all-those redesign, you'll learn a bit more about what happened. But right now, we need to go back and ask, who woke her up?
Round 2, fight!
Oh, with this OC, I immediately ran into trouble. I'm a dancing boy, all I wanna do is quit. With Mashi, I thought the cringe is going to kill me, but with Robin, I realized they're so much worse, because they're mellow. I have nothing to say about them. Their pets are pretty cool, I guess? There is nothing interesting about them, nothing I could poke fun at. They were just a couple of tropes thrown together, a Pinterest board melted into a pot. And they couldn't stay that way. I knew from the depths of my heart that Robin deserved better than that. They deserved to be more than just a trope. And so, if high school me wasn't interested in giving them a soul and a story, I had to do it. Okay, I think I got an idea. It might be a bust though. This Robin needs to leave the nest. He needs a change of pace, you know? He needs to go somewhere else. When I was a little girl, while everyone else was watching the Disney Channel and Nickelodeon, I was glued to the TV for a completely different reason. Animal Planet. Documentaries about snow leopards, endangered birds, zoos, and paleontologists were the most exciting part of my day. And among all of those programs, one was my favorite. This one show, which I don't remember much about, that focused on capturing footage of tigers in the small country of Bhutan. So of course, being as self-indulgent as I am, Robin is currently in Bhutan. But why? Robin is named after a bird, so it's only fitting that I let them spread their wings and become much more than they initially were. In high school, I decided that they were a biotechnician, meaning they worked in a lab doing the most laborious parts of research, conducting experiments and taking care of the lab as a whole. It's a poorly paid job. So how did someone like Robin end up in the Himalayas? I went through my old sketchbooks to find answers, but I didn't find any. What I did find is this weird incomplete document though. I am going to read it to you. As of right now, our preparations are complete and we are ready to move to the final phase of Mission Birdlime. Over the course of our investigation, we have found out the location of the last known surviving employee of the Open Prospect Company. While they have left the country shortly before the 2014 incident, there is more than enough proof to believe that they had an intimate connection to the experiments being conducted at Open Prospect, because they worked directly under Professor Lim. They might also be tied to the disappearance of one of the lab's external hard drives that has not been recovered during the investigation that followed the tragedy. If possible, recovering said hard drives is of top priority as they contain most of the research Open Prospect done on the possibility of moving the human consciousness away from the host. The person of interest has been referred to by the name Robin in Open Prospect documents, and their true identity has been concealed. Robin has been traveling the area surrounding the Himalayas such as India and Nepal before finally settling in Bhutan. They have been living there for the past couple of years. Our agents believe that this will be the appropriate time to strike, since Robin seems to have finally found a nest, which means their guard will be down. I truly believe that we might finally find out the truth behind the Open Prospect tragedy. However, it's incredibly important that we... That's where it ends. Wonder what that could possibly be about. Anyways, back to Tall Ginger Snufkin. Finishing up this concept art, I was really satisfied with how it turned out. After all, letting a character outgrow the tropes that bind them is always a pleasant moment. Wow, I actually really like how they look right now. I'm glad I gave them a redo. But god, I'm so tired at this point. But before I got to celebrate, I felt a new challenger approaching. Something much worse than a cringy high school OC. A headache. My biggest enemy. I immediately felt discouraged and drained. But I decided to push forward regardless. After all, the next OCs are the weirdest ones yet.
Final round. Fight!
Oh, these two are special. KO. KO, girl, what is up with me having issues with naming characters? And this girl's name is Eva? Why? Wasn't Eva enough? Anyways, new name, new me, welcome to life, Jade. These OCs were, despite it all, a breath of fresh air I desperately needed. They actually had a story going for them. Was it a good story? Well, no, but it was something. I knew that I couldn't separate them into separate portraits. They deserve to be kept together, and that's how I'd drawn them. And at first, everything was going smoothly. Despite my headache, I felt motivated and kept pushing, knowing that these two characters were ones I truly cared about when I was younger. I was satisfied with my sketch. By the way, KO is like floating behind her. I hope that's readable. But then, I felt my energy drain just as quickly as it came. And I was upset. Why? Why was I so exhausted? I was doing so well. Why was I suddenly feeling so low about everything I was doing? But no, I couldn't give up yet. I had a promise to deliver. I needed to prove to myself that I improved. That this was all worth it. So I focused. I silenced the voice in my head saying we need to take a break, and fully committed to finishing this piece. Oh my god. Oh my god, guys. No, why? Oh my god. Yeah, I wasn't too thrilled with the result, but after having a bit of a laugh at myself and taking a bit of a rest, I came back to finish this piece. So let's continue to watch me struggle while I tell you a bit more about their lore. So Jade and KO are the power couple of my teenage dreams. The two of them run a small ghost hunting business. Or rather, Jade does, since no one else can see KO. Jade presents herself as a psychic with the ability to exorcise a demon or ghost, but in reality, as she prepares the seance and mumbles out made-up spells and makes her clients do ridiculous things to deepen their immersion, KO is doing all the heavy lifting. You see, KO isn't just a ghost. Oh no. She was born into this world after a very disgruntled 17-year-old me watched the Tokyo Ghoul anime and was deeply upset at how terribly it concluded. So KO is a ghoul-like being, but instead of human flesh, she feasts on souls. Not only human ones at that, a demon is just as satisfactory to her. But thankfully, even though she does see humans and ghosts exclusively as a source of food, Jade patiently taught her politeness, and now, like a well-trained dog, KO waits for Jade's signals before she devours somebody's soul. A pale girl that has a weird eye thing going on and wild bluish hair? Life is nothing but repeating cycles, huh? KO has been unhuman for so long that she has forgotten her old self. But thanks to Jade, she bit by bit started to regain her memories. However, how exactly she ended up being a soul-eating ghoul is still a mystery. Speaking of Jade, I decided to give her a bit more of an attitude. Jade is edgy and a bit of a mean girl on purpose. She's 19 and she's going through her rebellious era. That's why, despite her being named after a green stone, she wears red and not green. Also Jade, I named her that for no reason. No reason at all. Don't think about other emo girls named Jade. Right now, Jade is definitely going through a rough period in her life, having regular arguments with her family and overall struggling with life as a young adult. And KO is there to support her. But it wasn't always like that. After all, how did a terrifying monster and a young girl even meet? In an old attic in a building which once was a mansion and now has fallen into disrepair, a little girl, not any older than 6, is trembling on the floor. Her grandma warned her not to go into the old house, and yet she felt a calling. Was it pure curiosity, or was it the cruel push of fate? It didn't matter now, where she laid on the rotting floor covered in dust and grime. She's about to pay the price of that call. A cruel red eye is looking down at her. The monster is pale, its skin almost translucent in the morning light that's bleeding through the small roof window. It takes a step forward, and the girl trembles, holding back sobs as the monster lowers itself to look closer at the girl's face. It stares for what feels like an eternity, before slowly sitting down on the dirty floor. What a wonderful shirt! I love horses as well. The girl looks down at the My Little Pony shirt and then back at the monster that looks at her with nothing more than curiosity. For a moment, she doesn't dare to move, but finally, with a shaking hand, she reaches for her bright pink backpack. She unclips the horse charm from the zipper and slowly outreaches her hand to the pale girl. Maybe they could be friends. But could I be friends with my high school self? After all this cringe and pain, could I ever like her? Or even like my current self? That did a miserable job of these redesigns? I think so, yeah. Even though the old me was cringe, she meant well, and these OCs were self-indulgent in a very honest way. Mashi represented my struggle with femininity and how, despite it, I wished to be seen as strong. Robin was the result of me discovering what gender identity was, and I made them embody this gentle masculinity and passion I wish I could have. With KO and Jade, I was exploring how a good partnership could work despite differences. They still meant something. And what would mean the world to me right now would be if you could subscribe and watch this video, which actually was my first video, in which I also designed some OCs. And if you fell in love with me or the OCs over the course of this video and you have $1.50 to spare, my Patreon is full of exclusive content. Be cringe, be free, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye!